Again, I'm going to go over basic, this should be like a entry-level beginning, maybe tutorial or something. Put some light down here. Alright, basically, what you have here is a tattoo machine, alright? Basically, these are the parts on the tattoo machine. This would be your coils. They come in crazy amounts of, sizes. I've seen 6 wraps, 8 wraps, 7.5 wraps, 8.5 wraps, 10 wraps, 11 wraps. All that does is tell you how much, it's wrapped. How many wire wraps are, on each coil. So basically you got that. That's your coils. Then on your coils, you'll have a capacitor. Now you have a 22 UF capacitor, which makes your machine run a little faster, and that's for lining. You got a 47, which is like right there in the middle. It's pretty good. There's a few others, but these are the 2 common ones. These are the ones I'd probably say stick with. You're easiest to find. Alright, basically the whole metal part you see is your frame. You got your they're different, call them different things, guillotines, whatever you want, but this is basically your tube vise. It holds your tube in there. Again, this is your tube. This is your needle. On the end of your needle you have your grommet. Your grommet goes on the end of this armature bar, and this is called an armature bar. Your grommet goes on the nipple area. Now this is your, on this armature bar you have your main spring or rear spring. On the front of that would go your timing spring or your front spring. Alright, now that pretty much goes over most of the parts. You do have a yoke down here on some machines, but some will not have them. You have your yoke. This will be on this, like on a machine that doesn't have it. This will be your front binding post. Would be this top part up here where your contacts and everything are. This will be your rear binding post. Again, this is your contact screw. This is your contact tightening screw. So you tighten this down, this won't move. And that's pretty much basically most of your parts of the tattoo machine. Alright, going over a little more stuff. This armature bar is pretty wide, pretty heavy. That'd probably be better for coloring or shading needs. If you got like a mid-weight bar, it's probably better for your shading needs or the lining needs. When you got a light armature bar that's really thin, really light, you want to use that for lining because it'll have more zip to it. It'll go faster. As far as your springs go on a machine, you can use 18s on the front and back for every machine if you want. It's a little easier if you use, like an 18 gauge spring, for the back, and like a stiffer spring for the front on your liners. Stiffer spring being like 20-22 gauged. They work really good for liners. And a liner, you want your contact gap, which is, they call it different things, contact gap, air gap, whatever you want to call it. This is your air gap. This is what I call the timing gap, or, contact gap. Like, this is a liner. I'm showing you a liner right now, so you see my gap on my contact gap and my air gap should be around the same. And see, that's maybe the size of a dime, maybe like 2 millimeters and 1.5 millimeters, somewhere around there. Basically you want it to run right for you. I mean, me telling you how to set it up's not going to set it up perfect, but you want it to be good, and that's a good starting point. It's about, 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters, that's probably a good starting point. On a shader, your good springs are probably going to be good. On the back, you probably want around a 16 or 18 will do good, and on the front, again, a 16 or 18 will do good for a shader. You see the gap on here, you got a bigger gap. I go anywhere from 2.5 millimeters up to like 6 millimeters, but you see the front gap and the rear gap are about the same. I'm sorry if this video is a little blurry, it's hard to get some, but the gaps are very important on a color machine. Again, you want a little bit bigger gap from a shader, but 16 gauge springs all around will do good. But basically, you want to try to keep your both distances about the same, and that'll keep your machine running pretty smooth. Well, that's pretty much about it for like basics, going over everything. I mean, if you want to, your machine to run a little harder, and you can have a little more angle of deflection when you bend your springs and whatnot. But I basically just check the videos out, and hopefully this helps everybody. Alright, bye.